The hum of the washing machines filled the small laundry room, a steady rhythm that should have been comforting. Instead, my nerves were stretched tight. I folded a tiny pair of jeans with shaking hands, my eyes darting toward Lily, my 5-year-old, who sat quietly in the red wagon, playing with her doll. It was just a routine errand, one of many in my chaotic life as a single mother of 4, but nothing ever felt routine anymore. Not since I left James, not since the court battles started, not since the world seemed to split into two, those who believed me and those who stood by him. I was tired, bone-deep tired. Every day was a fight, whether in court, in my own head, or against the people who thought I was the villain. My hearing for the restraining order was coming up soon, and I knew James was pulling every string he could to make me look unstable. I took a deep breath, pushing those thoughts aside, and reached for another shirt. That's when I heard the voice. Soft, sweet, wrong. "Lily, are we still friends?" I froze. Slowly, I turned. Margaret. She was crouched on her hands and knees, her face inches from my daughter's. My stomach dropped. Lily didn't answer. She gripped her doll tighter, her little fingers curling around it like a lifeline. Margaret tilted her head, her smile stretching too wide. "Who told you we weren't friends anymore, sweetheart?" My pulse pounded in my ears. Lily turned her head away, refusing to speak. Margaret's smile faltered, then twisted into something darker. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Don't trust your bitch mother." A sharp, electric rage shot through me. "Get away from my daughter." My voice was louder than I expected, my own fear making it shake. Margaret barely flinched. She stood slowly, blocking my path to the wagon, her expression smug. "The judge is going to love hearing about this," she murmured. "You really think you can keep those kids away from their father forever?" The words sent ice through my veins. I grabbed the wagon handle and yanked it toward me, stepping between my child and this woman who I once called a friend. Lily was crying now, small, panicked sobs that made my chest tighten. "You're sick," I spat. "Stay the hell away from my kids." Margaret just smiled. I fumbled for my phone with trembling hands and dialed the police. This time, I wouldn't let it slide. My hands were shaking as I held the phone to my ear. The moment the dispatcher picked up, I forced myself to speak clearly. "I need an officer at the Oakwood Apartments laundry room. A woman just verbally harassed my 5-year-old and tried to block me from leaving." The dispatcher asked for details, but I could barely focus. Lily was still crying in the wagon, her little shoulders shaking, and Margaret was standing just a few feet away, arms crossed, a smug smile on her face. "She called me a bitch in front of my child," I said, voice tight. She scared her. She's trying to intimidate me before my restraining order hearing." Margaret let out a sharp laugh. "Oh, honey, you are so dramatic." I turned my back to her, shielding Lily. "I need someone here now." "They're on their way," the dispatcher assured me. I hung up and gripped the wagon handle so tightly my knuckles ached. I just had to wait, just had to hold it together. Margaret didn't leave. Instead, she leaned against the wall, watching me with amusement. "You really think the cops care about this?" she asked. "They've got better things to do than deal with a little mommy tantrum." I said nothing. I wasn't giving her the satisfaction. Minutes passed like hours. Lily's cries had quieted to soft sniffles, and I knelt beside her, smoothing her hair. "It's okay, baby," I whispered. "We're okay." The sound of approaching sirens finally broke the suffocating silence. Margaret straightened, rolling her eyes. Unbelievable. 2 officers entered the laundry room. One, a middle-aged man with graying hair, glanced between us. "We got a report of harassment." I stood, my whole body still trembling. "Yes." She approached my daughter, got in her face, and told her not to trust me. My voice wavered, but I forced myself to stay strong. "She also blocked me from leaving and made threats about my custody case." Margaret sighed dramatically. "I did no such thing. I was just talking to the little girl, asking if we were still friends. Apparently, that's a crime now." She smirked at me. "Maybe you should stop poisoning your kids against people who actually care about them." My stomach turned. I knew what she was doing. She wanted to make me look unstable, paranoid. The officer looked at Lily. "Sweetheart, can you tell me what happened?" Lily buried her face in my stomach. She was too scared to talk. She was crying before I even called. I said, she wouldn't be acting like this if it was just a friendly conversation. The younger officer, a woman, stepped forward. Ma'am, do you want to press charges for harassment? I hesitated. Margaret was already making my life hell, and this would escalate things. But if I let it go, she'd feel emboldened. Yes, I said finally. I do. Margaret scoffed. Oh, you're going to regret that. The officer nodded and pulled out a notepad. We'll need to take your statements. Do you have any witnesses? I shook my head. Just my daughter. Margaret smirked again, and I knew she was thinking the same thing I was. Without witnesses, it was her word against mine. But I wasn't backing down. This was just the beginning. By the time the officers finished taking our statements, Lily had fallen asleep in the wagon, exhausted from crying. I was drained, my hands still trembling as I signed the paperwork. We'll file this report, the female officer said, tucking her notepad away. Since there was no physical altercation, it's up to the DA whether charges will be pursued. In the meantime, if she continues to harass you, call us immediately. I nodded. Thank you. Margaret was standing a few feet away, arms crossed, her face a mask of amusement. Well, that was a waste of taxpayer money, she said with a smirk. You think this will help you in court. If anything, it just makes you look like a hysterical mother. I ignored her. I wasn't going to give her another reaction. The officers left, and I wasted no time getting Lily out of there. I pulled the wagon down the cracked pavement toward my apartment, my heart still hammering in my chest. This wasn't over. Margaret wouldn't stop, and worse, she was clearly working with James. I barely had the door shut before my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. You're making a mistake. I stared at the screen, my stomach knotting. I didn't need to guess who it was. James had a way of reaching me, no matter how many times I blocked him. I locked the door, secured the chain, and took a shaky breath. The apartment was dark except for the soft glow from the kitchen. The twins, Ava and Noah, were asleep in their shared room, and my oldest, Ethan, was on the couch with a book. Mom? Ethan looked up. What's wrong? I forced a smile. Nothing, baby. Just a long night. I couldn't let them see how scared I was. But inside, I knew. Things were spiraling. Fast. I needed to get us out of here. I barely slept that night. Every creak of the apartment, every shadow cast by the dim streetlights outside, felt like a threat. I kept my phone clutched in my hand, waiting for another message, another sign that James or Margaret wasn't done with me yet. By the time the sun started creeping through the blinds, I knew I couldn't stay here much longer. The move was already in progress, but it wasn't fast enough. Every day I remained in this complex was another day closer to something worse happening. I got the kids up, made them breakfast, and tried to push through the exhaustion. But even as I spread peanut butter on toast and poured cereal into bowls, my mind kept replaying last night. Margaret's face, Lily's tears, James's message. I needed help. After dropping Ethan off at school and settling the twins in with their toys, I called my lawyer. Olivia, she greeted, sounding tired already. What happened? I told her everything. The laundry room, Margaret's threats, the police report, and the message from James. She sighed. It's harassment, absolutely, but without concrete proof that James is behind it, it won't necessarily help your restraining order case. So what do? I asked, gripping the phone tighter. Document everything. Keep calling the police if she approaches you again. And most importantly, do not engage. The more you react, the more ammunition she has to paint you as unstable. I swallowed my frustration. She got in my 5-year-old's face. How am I supposed to just ignore that? You're not ignoring it, she reassured me. You're handling it the right way, through legal channels. Legal channels, as if the system had done anything to protect me so far. But I thanked her and hung up, knowing she was right. I had to be careful. If Margaret or James could twist things against me, they would. I spent the rest of the day watching the clock, counting down the hours until I could pick up Ethan and be home before dark. I was paranoid, jumping at every noise, checking the windows constantly. And then, Just as I was about to leave for school pickup, my phone buzzed again. "You think you're safe? You're not." My breath caught. This time, I wasn't just scared. I was furious. My grip tightened around my phone as I read the message again. My chest felt tight, my breath coming fast and shallow. I knew it was James. It had to be. He wanted me to feel cornered, wanted me to doubt myself. I refused to let him win. With shaking hands, I screenshot the message and forwarded it to my lawyer. Then, without hesitating, I called the police again. "This is Olivia Carter," I said, my voice steady despite the storm brewing inside me. "I filed a harassment report last night. I just received another threatening message." The dispatcher took down the details and told me an officer would call me back. It was the same routine as always: report, document, wait. But I couldn't just wait. I had to pick up Ethan from school. Grabbing my keys, I checked on the twins, who were still playing in the living room, oblivious to the growing tension in our home. Lily sat close to them, holding her doll tightly, her big eyes watching me. "Mommy?" she asked softly. I forced a smile. "It's okay, baby. I'm just going to get Ethan. I'll be back soon." She nodded but didn't look convinced. Neither was I. I left the apartment with my stomach in knots, scanning the parking lot as I walked toward my car. Every person, every parked vehicle, felt like a potential threat. I got in, locked the doors, and started the engine. As I pulled out, I noticed movement in my rearview mirror, a figure standing near the laundry room, watching me. Margaret. She didn't wave, didn't smile, just stood there, arms crossed, head tilted, as if she knew something I didn't. My heart pounded as I drove away. I wanted to believe I was overreacting, that she was just trying to intimidate me. But deep down, I knew better. This wasn't over. It was only getting worse. By the time I reached Ethan's school, my hands were slick with sweat against the steering wheel. I forced myself to breathe, to push down the fear clawing at my throat. I had to stay calm, for my kids. Ethan ran up to the car, backpack bouncing against his shoulders. "Hey, Mom," he grinned, oblivious to the storm raging inside me. "Hey, baby," I said, trying to keep my voice normal. "How was school?" "Boring," he groaned, buckling in. "Can we have pizza tonight?" I smiled despite everything. "We'll see." I drove home, gripping the wheel so hard my knuckles ached. Every car behind me felt suspicious. Every turn made me glance in the mirror. Was I being followed? Was James watching? Was Margaret lurking, waiting for another chance to get inside my head? By the time I pulled into the parking lot, my paranoia had reached a fever pitch. I scanned the lot before getting out. No Margaret, no strange cars, just the usual vehicles and neighbors who barely looked up as I ushered Ethan inside. The moment the door shut behind us, I locked it, secured the chain, and exhaled. I checked my phone. No new messages. Maybe James was waiting. Maybe he wanted me to stew in fear before striking again. Or maybe I wasn't giving him that chance. I texted my lawyer again. "I need to move sooner. I don't care what it takes. I don't feel safe." Seconds later, she responded, "I'll see what I can do. Stay inside. Call if anything happens." I looked at my kids, Ethan, already playing on his tablet, the twins giggling over their toys, Lily, still clutching her doll, still watching me. I had 4 little lives depending on me. Margaret, James, all of them. They wanted me scared, trapped. But I wasn't weak. I had survived worse. And I would survive this too. Because no matter what they did, no matter how hard they tried to break me, I wasn't giving up. I wasn't running. And I damn sure wasn't losing.